Hey y'all, hey! Welcome to the Mahogany Fawn Mobcast with your girl Mahogany Fawn. I have a special guest and author today who just released a book. You guys might be familiar with his last name, but today we're going to talk about his first name. So, Quan, say hey to the mob crew.
How y'all doing, mob crew? How's everything?
All right. Now, Quan, you have just recently wrote a book. Your book is entitled, I don't want to get it wrong, so could you just let the mob crew know?
It's titled Face to Face with Danger, Spirit of a Hustler by Quan Gray.
Okay, now.
You know, it's a book.
Yeah, wait. We're going to get into the book. But before we do, I just wanted to give them a little background about you. So tell the mob crew just a little bit about yourself.
You know, as far as, me, I'm just an upcoming author, putting poetry and putting music and stuff together inside of my stories, letting young brothers know that, you can make a way out of no way. Don't let pride and ego get involved with your life and trick you out the world and trick you out your freedom. And I'm just trying to spread a new message to all the youth to get them to understand that it's more than just money and sex and drugs in this world, because that can manipulate you and have you find yourself into a situation where I was at in prison for 15 to 30 years.
Wow.
And you don't want to be there. You don't want to be there. So I wrote that book while I was in prison, and I hope it touches the hearts of people who lost in this world, in the streets.
That's right. Okay, so what we're going to start talking about is the book, okay? Now, it was just released on what platforms so the people know?
Released on Amazon, all platforms, Ingram Spark. It's released on all platforms. You call me up, you can find me on Russia.
Okay.
It's on all platforms.
Okay.
All you gotta do is Google it, and it'll pop right on up. Face to Face with Danger, Spirit of a Hustler, and I'll pop up. Just Google it.
All right, just Google them. You heard it here. All right,
That's all
so
you gotta do.
let's go ahead and dive into the book. The book highlights growing up surrounded by sex, money, and drugs, like you said earlier. How did the environment shape Quan's identity early on?
Early on?
Yes. We're talking about the book here, yes.
Okay, well, growing up, in the streets of Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. No, let me take that back. The city of tough love. Running around in them streets, thank God that I ran across an older guy, OG named Kaz. He took me under his wing, and I basically kept me safe. That's why, I learned that you got to look up to the older people, because they can teach you things that you don't know from experience.
Right.
And that's what we missing today. A lot of young brothers out today, they don't listen to the older people, and that's what you need. You need people to tell you things that they experienced.
Right.
So you can know what you headed for and what you up against. But with me in the story, Quan was a young brother. He was growing up in the projects, and his mom was young when she had him. She was only 16 years old, and she was trying to find her way too. So, they both was growing up together in the projects, the Richard Island projects, and she wound up finding herself out of that situation into a better situation with a house and a parking lot, and kids playing. The life was different.
Right.
But she ran into a drug. When 1985 hit, the crack epidemic.
Yeah, crack was crazy.
And,
Yeah.
His mom, Quan's mom, got strung out on drugs.
Wow.
And that's when life catapult. That's when life just took a change for 360, and he had to find out and figure out a way on how to take care of his little brothers and sisters.
Right.
And survival kicked in, and he was out in the streets, and he ran across an OG now named Kaz, and Kaz took him under the wing, and they start rolling out with each other. He was selling drugs, and Kaz had got murdered. And that's when life really created Quan to become a monster.
Okay.
When Kaz died and left, that's when Quan just
lost it.
Took to the streets, and he lost it, basically.
Okay.
He lost it.
Well, in the book, you say he had a war within himself. Now, you just said he lost it after Kaz died. So the war within himself symbolizes the loss of Cause because that was his only guidance point, mentor? Or is the war within himself being the man that he has now have to be in position to take care of his family and step up and step in? What would
All of
you?
the above.
Oh, okay.
All of the above,
Okay.
including the loss of my mother.
Mm-hmm.
Quan's mother was a real good woman before crack hit. So he's
Right.
seen the different stages and her phases in her life where it changed.
Mm-hmm.
And he was only 12 years old when this took place. So Quan took that very hard because when he lost his mother, Kaz became like a father image. Someone that he can talk to.
Right.
And when Kaz died, and the arrogance and the ego and the drugs and all of that came about. And that's when, Quan started fighting the enemy within himself, but didn't know it.
Right.
He thought everybody was against him.
The eternal battle. Got you.
Exactly. He wasn't taking accountability for nothing.
Do you think Quan was shaped more by circumstances or choices?
I could say a little bit of both because in circumstances you got to make a choice.
True.
And if there was people that was talking to me and letting me know it was a different way, maybe I would have thought and changed, or maybe tried a different option.
Right.
But I didn't have no influences like that. Everybody was selling drugs, robbing, stealing, doing all types of things that was illegal. So I didn't have nobody to sit back with me and explain to me, look, man, you're going about this wrong. So maybe if I had someone to guide me, it could have been a lot different.
Okay. Now, with what you just said, what lessons about survival can readers take from the book?
Well, the lessons about survival is I've learned that sometimes you just gotta walk away.
Right.
You gotta leave. You gotta leave where you at. I just up and left. I went to Atlanta. I said, man, I can't take this no more. I'm in the same place, the same environment, the same people. How can I change if I'm around the same thing that I've been a monster in?
Right.
So, sometimes you just got to up and leave your surroundings, the people, the places and things that you adapted to, and take yourself out of that element and start off new. You know, and that's what you got to do. You have to do that sometimes. Most of the time, that's what you have to do.
Okay. Now, the character Cause takes Quan under his wing. How important is mentorship in this story? Even though it's like in the beginning, you get what I'm saying? And I'm a big advocate for mental health, especially when it comes to our Black men, because we're stigmatized to think that we should not ask for help when we can. But yes, mentorship. I think that was one of the key things in your book that I know that the Black men can appreciate. Women too. But knowing that there's somebody there to guide and lead you is always a plus, because the world is a crazy place and nobody has a book for it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
What positive and negative impacts can mentorship have? Because even though Cause was good to him, he also did what he did. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
So is the mentor, even though he gave him life lessons, because Cause was into what he was into, was that really the best mentorship? Did he still get the lessons that he needed?
I think it was balanced out.
Okay.
Because, Cos was a different type of person. Even though he did what he did, far as selling drugs, he was a good man. He looked out for his children. He looked out for the people in the community. He was a very fun-going dude. He always laughed. He wasn't a violent type person. Like, if somebody owed him money, he wouldn't hurt them and do violent stuff like that. So when I looked at him, I looked at the good things, the good qualities that he had.
Right.
And I knew it was good because it made me feel good and it made other people feel good. So I knew it was good. And as far as him being a drug dealer and things of that nature, I really overlooked that. And I looked at him as a person.
Right.
And I looked beyond that. And I feel as though sometimes that's the only way you can relate to somebody, if the person comes from where you came from.
Right.
A lot of people today, they can't relate to a guy that's preaching the word and never was in the streets.
That's true.
And the guy that's preaching the word, he can't relate to them neither. He's going to speak to them in a different communication, and they're not going to relate to one another. So I think God allowed Kaz, that was in the streets selling drugs, to show me at least how to be good to a person.
Right.
You know, because that's what I got out of him, how to be good to people even though they were living the way they were living and doing what they was doing, because Kyle was real good to the even ones that was buying the drugs off of him.
Right.
You know, he treated them like family.
Love. It was all love. Yeah.
It was all love coming from Kaz. And when you read the book, and people that know Kaz, they'll tell you, and they admit it, that Kaz was a very good person.
Okay. Now, through Quan's struggle, how do you think the book explores redemption of self-awareness? Because at one point, you know, Quan does come to a realization, like, hey, I gotta do what I gotta do. This, you know, I have to do what's right for me. You know what I'm saying? Which meant for his family and for his lifestyle. And so when it comes to your readers, how do you think they would take redemption for self-awareness if they're reading this book?
How did Quan get to the point of redemption?
Yes.
That's what you're asking?
Yes.
Okay, well, he was stripped of everything. He lost everything. He lost his freedom. He lost his family. He lost his mother. He lost his children. And he was stripped out. He had nothing. You know, and then, you know, one day he woke up on his bunk inside the cell, and he realized all he had was his word and his spirit.
Right.
And the guy that was the guy that was in his room with him, his bunkmate, you know, tried to present the Bible to him. And Quan, you know, he didn't want to accept it. You know, growing up, you know, his livelihood. And then once Quan started realizing that, you know, about Joseph, you know, and about Samson, and about Adam, and about Eve, and about, you know, all the prophets and the kings and queens that's told, the stories that's told in the Bible, he could relate to. And he started having dreams, real dreams. God was coming into his dreams. And that's when he really took hold of the spirit and started realizing that he was protected. And he started reading Psalms, and throughout his time inside the prison, he started realizing that change was changing, like it was becoming positive.
That's right.
You know, guys who was trying to attack him couldn't even attack him.
Right.
And Quan knew that it wasn't him. You know, he's a little guy, he's small. These guys, big guys. And, you know, that's when I realized, that's when Quan realized that, you know, it was time for redemption. It was time for him to give life over to God and let God take hold on and support him, you know, and that's what he did.
Right.
And the redemption came about.
Okay. Now, I kind of jumped the gun a little bit, but I definitely wanted to talk about that because a lot of us go through that. A lot of us lose everything, our moms, our jobs, our cars, our homes, and we have to, you know, come to the realization that there's got to be a change, and the change has to start with me.
It's got to be.
Okay.
True. Yeah.
So I definitely wanted to cover that. I didn't want to miss it, but I also want to, you know, go back and talk about Quan, because at one point he was called Danger. You know what I'm saying? His rap name, his rap battle name was Danger. Right.
Yeah.
So, you know, as Danger, what role when he became that person, what type of self-expression was he trying to convey to his audience?
He became Danger right after Kaz had died, right after the funeral. He was at work, and he was working for this company called Merit Industries, and he used to rewire and wire the mega touch screens, and he had to put a sticker on side of the screens called Danger High Voltage. And one day he was just rhyming, and he was in his lyrical mode, and he seen a sticker, and he took like 1,000 of them from his job, and he started going around the city just stamping stickers on the walls and on the doors of the stores and cars and stop signs. Everywhere you looked, you seen a Danger High Voltage sticker. And then, you know, he started realizing that, you know, my life is in danger. All I see is danger.
Don't beat me to my next question yet. Don't beat me to my next question. Okay. Now, how does battling mirror the battles he faces in real life?
Oh, that's deep.
Yeah,
that's
but
deep.
you were gonna touch upon it, and I gotta ask my question first. You gotta let me do my job, Quan. You gotta let me do my job.
That's deep. I got you. You gonna do that? And man, that's crazy you asked this question, Mahogany, because I just realized that recently. That battling, when Quan was battling his freestyles, you know, versatile as far as with the wordplay and battling with the rhymes. It was more than just battling with rhymes, because when Danger used to rap, he used to rap about real messages. He didn't rap about money or clothes or sex. He rapped spiritual rhymes, and he rapped about how you don't supposed to worship money. You know, and his lyrics, he was very lyrical, and he would go around battling people in that manner.
Right.
And I realized when I was representing myself as a lawyer, and I realized that I was battling verbally. My arguments, I had to remember and understand what I was saying when you're communicating with somebody, but it wasn't just in rhyme form. It was still going back and forth, you know, and you got to be on point with your mentality.
Yeah.
You got to, you know, react. You got to listen to what the person's saying and know how to react to it at a precise moment.
Yeah, with execution. Because you're not.
Exactly. So that did apply to Danger's life, you know, and he kept that with him. That part of Danger, you know, he kept that part with him, whereas though he know how to, you know, be compatible and match energy, you know, and then express how you feel when somebody's speaking to him.
Okay.
So yeah, I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, it did. Why do you think art, mainly the music industry, is one of the outlets that we use to get out of the AKA the hood? Why do you feel that, you know, it's either music or sports, you feel me, based upon the black culture? The only way we're getting out the hood is if you can use a ball, know how to use a ball, or if you are, you know, musically inclined. Now, my thing is, between street culture and music culture, why do you think we as a people tend to go that direction instead of being like a doctor, a dentist, you know, because Danger went into the rap game. He didn't try to go back to school, you know what I mean? So
I understand.
Culturally, why do you think we do that?
You said it, you answered it yourself. Culture, you know, that's our culture. Music, dance, you know, being athletic, you know, all that comes from our culture. I'm talking about our culture, where we come from. You know, that's cultural. That's cultural inside of us. But I think the limitations were built that way because I'm not going to say the system designed it that way, even though they did. But, you know, I feel as though that's all we knew about. That's all we had accessible to us. You know, was a basketball, you know, and a crate, you know, and that was more accessible to us living in poverty. We couldn't become a doctor, you know, and we don't have nobody, you know, being influencing us on that, or, you know, doctors are in our area that we can watch and become a doctor and lead by example. You know, all we had was, you know, a basketball in the crate, you know, some music, you know, somebody can beat
a ball and a stick. Yeah, you're right. You know, you're right.
That's all we had. You know, that's all we had. Look what we did with it.
Yeah, bucket out of drums. You know, drums bucket. You know what I mean? We weren't playing with stethoscopes and microscopes.
No, we wasn't doing that back then. But now, there's no excuse. We can take it beyond the limits now, and that's what we're doing now.
All right.
You know, that's what we're doing now.
Okay, we're gonna shift a little bit. We're still talking about the book, but we're gonna shift to more of what we want the reader to take from. Okay. When passion turns into pain, what does that moment represent in Quan's journey?
Trauma. Very traumatic. You know, it seemed like everything was going wrong. You know, everything just went downhill. You know, that was a dark moment when it turned into pain. You know, and you know, he was young, and he didn't really understand why he was going through the things he was going through. So he chose to start using drugs and having sex with multiple women, because that's how he escaped from his pain. Right. That type of pleasure. And he wound up being inside the strip clubs and going from place to place, city to city. You know, he still had the rapping in him. You know, he expressed his feelings out of rapping, but, you know, he was finding more grown-up things to express his energy out of, and that was, you know, sex, and that was drugs, you know, and that pain, that was the most worst pain that I think that a person can feel when you lose mostly everybody that you loved or loved you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and he just couldn't take it no more. You know, and he just turned into a total different alter ego, and that danger took hold of him.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, that's what he thought he was. You couldn't tell him he wasn't in danger.
Right. He did
You know,
become one. They became one. There was no dissecting the two at all. Okay.
None at all.
Now, in this book, Quan is fighting, you know, spiritually, physically, and, you know, mentally. What does that look like to you, the author?
From reading the book after I was done?
Yeah, like
what do you mean?
when you told us, when you wrote in the book how Quan went through these transitions from, you know, losing everything to losing his mentor to running the streets to waking up on his bed with his bunkmate and realizing, you know, I have to be the change. So in your life, what does that look like to you when you're fighting physically, when you're fighting emotionally, and when you're fighting spiritually?
It looks like a war. You know, it's a war. It's a never-ending war. And but in order to realize that this war can be won and you can overcome these battles, first you have to really, really love God and understand God.
Amen.
to the point where there's no doubt.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
there's no shadow of a doubt.
No shadow of a doubt. No shadow of a doubt.
Okay.
And that's it.
How can people use the hustler mindset in a positive way? Being that you're coming from the situation that you're coming from, you should be the perfect person to ask.
Yeah, most definitely. And you know, realize that the things that you used to do that got you locked up or got you in situations where you might have got hurt or somebody else got hurt, learn to do positive things. Reverse it. You know, if you're out there selling drugs, learn how to sell some clothing. If you can sell drugs, you can sell clothes. You can sell water ice. You can sell food. That's good salesmanship. You know, if you know how to hands in hands and sell dope, you can sell some clothes.
That's right. You know, some books, some shoes, something else that's not going to get you locked up. Yeah, okay, I like that.
The money might come a little slower, but as long as you ain't got to watch your back, as long as you ain't got to go to jail and be worrying about having to pay for bail, because all that money going to be accounted for anyway. So you might as well take that slow money, stack it. At least, you know, you ain't got to worry about no police coming at you or none of that. It's a lot more safer. A lot more better that way.
That's right. Okay. Now, as the author, what do you want your readers to take away from this book?
I want them to take and realize that in order for you to overcome these battles and these situations that you're going through in life, believe in the Creator, believe that God will see you through it, and have faith in it. No matter what. I know it may sound religious, you know, it may sound spooky, but believe me, you know, I was on the dark side for a long time. And when I chose to go to the light for the first time in my life, it changed me totally. And I'm really trying to explain to people that, you know, all you got to do is read this book and see that a person who came from the darkness and embraced it.
Right. You
know, and now he's embracing the light. And look at him now. You know,
this is your positive turn. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, that's it.
All right. You guys heard it here with Quan himself, and we will be right back on the Mahogany Fawn Mobcast.
The last time I saw my son was November 28, 2011, on his birthday at my mother's funeral. In 2012, I was arrested for aggravated assault. My son just got the deal on Empire. I told my daughter, Andrea, my son's mother, is not allowing anyone to communicate with Bryshere. She went as far as putting my daughter out of her house so they could no longer have any ties to parents with no reason why. Friends and family tried to reach out to him, but he never responded. Some people even saw him and asked him if he talked to me. This story has so many different angles of drama. I get sidetracked by all the emotions being expressed. Since Empire was aired, we lost Bryshere. We don't have any clue why my son has been going through some legal problems. His mother has sold my son to the world for money. Now he's all alone, seeking for affection in all the wrong ways and places. I must admit that I take accountability for not being the father that I'm supposed to be. And this played a strong impact on why my son is caught up in all this mess. I pray every day that my son will come to his reality and face it. He deserves to know his family and the truth. Every family has their drama. My reason for coming out is my son is crying for help, but he is hiding from the one who will help him no matter what. The only way to reach out to him is through social media, and that's what I intend to do. I want to find my family. He's my firstborn. I named him Bryshere at Chestnut Hill Hospital when he was born. It means bright star is here. I love my son, and I will do whatever I can to bring him back.
What happens when a father's love is met with silence and a son's pain goes unheard? This is more than a headline. This is heartache, raw and real. In this exclusive interview, a father opens up unfiltered, emotional, and desperate to reach the son he's slowly losing. The Weight of Love, a father's plea for Bryshere Gray. Coming soon.
Speaking to the father of Bryshere Gray, you know, the star from Empire. Now, with that being said, because you know I just dropped a doozy on him, Quan, what would you like to say to your son? Just as an opportunity before we get into anything. If you could say anything to your son right now, Bryshere, what would it be?
I would tell him that I'm proud of you for all your accomplishments, but not just your accomplishments, but how you bounce back from your struggles.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm proud of you for being the man that you are. You know, I love you and I always love you, no matter what. And hopefully we can reunite, you know, and break these generational curses that's been put upon us.
Let's put them behind us.
And you always my man. You're always my young boy. You're always gonna remember that. I'm gonna make sure of that. And keep doing what you're doing, man. That's all I can say to you. Keep doing what you're doing. And everybody love you, man. And we here whenever you're ready to come through. We here for you, man.
That's right. We're here for you,
Bryshere.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, that was so heartfelt.
Absolutely.
Okay, so Mr. Gray, when you found out that your son was entering this whole movie star entertainment type field. How did you feel about that? Were you prepared? Did you feel like your son was ready?
Well, man, listen. I was in my cell. I was asleep. I was asleep in my cell. And I heard some music playing in the TV room. And I heard a voice, and I was like, that voice sounds familiar. So I went to my cell door, and I looked out the window, and that's when I seen my son rapping on Empire. His tears started going down my eyes.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, that's how it went down. And I was at my last. You know, I tried to kill myself.
Wow.
You know, while I was in there. And I was just coming from out off of suicide watch. Matter of fact. Yeah, and the next day, that's when I seen him. God told me, he said, you gotta live for them. You gotta live for your children. And I've been up and running ever since then. But that's how I acknowledged when he was on Empire. That's the first time I acknowledged him. And after that, I just used to watch him every Wednesday. I used to faithfully go watch him. But nobody knew he was my son.
Wow.
And everybody, nobody knew. I just sit there and watch him all the time and laugh. And everybody like, yo, he cool as ever, man. I like his swag. I just sit there and be like, man, you just don't know where he got it from.
Okay. All right. So you were able to watch his growth from your cell, unfortunately. But as you saw his career unwind, you also saw the downward spiral.
Most definitely.
So you personally, I know that you and I have discussed some things prior to, but when did you feel, well, no, not that. How did you feel about his downfall? Especially because you were in a place where you couldn't speak with him.
It was like being sentenced all over again. It was like I was being judged all over again. And it really took me for a loop, but I had to realize that I had to take accountability for that. I did that, whereas though I should have been there for him. I should have been guiding him. So that really hit me harder than what he may think. The way it hit him, it hit me the same way, because I felt where he was going through. I felt his pain. I felt all his pain.
Wow. So, well, you know what? As a father that was in the system, what would you tell somebody that may be going through this situation that you went through when you saw your son go from a downward spiral, but you weren't in a position to reach out and speak to him, or, whatever the case may have been? As a father, you want to be there for your child. What advice would you give to others that may be in this situation?
Find somebody to talk to. Find somebody that you can trust, that you can express how you feel and relieve yourself, and to let out that energy. Because if you hold it in, it's going to become very, very explosive. So you have to find somebody that you can confide with and talk to and express how you feel, whether it's a pastor, whether it's your counselor, but you have to talk to somebody about it. You have to talk to somebody and pray. Most definitely. First and foremost, you have to pray. Okay.
That's good. You're right. You have to pray. I think we need more prayer in the world. You know what I mean?
It's very powerful. Very powerful.
Now, as a father, I know you're proud of your son, but during that downward spiral, there were some things that were said about your son and some other figures, allegedly, because I don't want nobody coming after me. But as far as, the whole thing with Will Smith and, being courted, I don't even want to say courted. I want to say, basically in a torture chamber. His mother was his confidant. Where do you think that went wrong? I mean, you weren't there at the time. So his mom, because I'm not trying to bring her up, but his mom was the one that was there altering stuff and moving things around. But when you saw that, when you saw those titles and those outrageous and outlandish hot topics come up, how did that make you feel as a father?
Angry. Very angry. It wasn't just me feeling anger towards it, but it was a lot of people that was talking about him disrespectfully around me, you know, and you know, I got into a couple altercations with people in prison, fights,
right,
you know, because they was, you know, but I was very angry. I didn't really understand why, you know, my son got caught up into that situation. When last time I heard Will Smith was his mentor, you know, I felt like, you know, Will from Philly and, you know, my son from Philly and, you know, that would help my son out with his acting career. So I felt like, you know, he was in good hands as far as me looking at it from that point of view. You know, I didn't know Will was into that. You know, so, you know, I'm still, you know, trying to find out the truth behind all of this.
Right.
You know, because me and my son haven't really came to agreement on to have a conversation about this yet. You know, we just, you know, tag each other on Instagram a little bit. But all I can say is, you know, if this did take place, best believe, you know, I'm gonna stand up for my son when I get the chance.
That's right.
You know, best believe I'm going to do that no matter what, regardless if he want to accept that or not. You know, it's my duty to do that, and it's a lot of people that's willing to ride with me with that too. So,
okay,
you know, that definitely got to be presented.
Exactly. Now, I know that there were some family members that have been trying to reach out to Bryshere and whatnot, and I don't know if that was ever successful. But I just want to say I pray for everybody involved in his situation. I pray for him, and that, you know, prayer, you know, hopefully your message today, you know, touches others in a way that they may not have thought it would. You get what I'm saying? I don't want to dwell on the negative and what hot topics, and I don't want to, because if it's BS, I don't want to repeat it on my show. You know what I'm saying? That's why I'm saying allegedly to whatever was caused or whatever was claimed. But I just want you to know, as a black man and as a black father coming out of the system, we're proud of you.
Appreciate that.
Okay?
Thank you so
We're
much.
proud of
Thank
you.
so much.
We're proud that you came to the awareness of yourself and that you've decided to do something better. I wish you much success for your book. And with that being said, Quan, is there anything that you want to say to the mob crew?
Hey, I want to thank you first and foremost for allowing me to be on the Mobcast. Mahogany, the first person I ever met with that name, Mahogany. That stands firm. You know, you're known for your dark brownish color and your firmness. You know, that's what mahogany is all about. You know, so, you know, it symbolizes strength and luxury.
Well, thank you.
So, you know, that's what it symbolizes. You know,
it does.
You know what I mean? And I thank you for allowing me to express how I feel and present my book to the world. And hopefully we collab on some more things.
Of course.
You know, and talk about some new topics. You know, and God bless you with many things and with abundance. And to all my people who's in Philly, top of Hockey Street, Pastorius and Baton, you know, read that book, man, 'cause you might be in it. You might be in it. So, you know,
okay, now, if the mob crew was trying to find you, how would they find you? What's your handles so that they can reach out?
You can find me on Facebook, Quan Gray, or you can find me on Instagram, 215 Ron G's, you know, and you can email me, quangray96@gmail.com.
Okay, y'all heard it straight here.
That's where I'm at right now.
All right, Quan. Now, at the end of every show, I say life is a game of tag. Somebody is always it, and that it could be you, like Quan here today. Until next time, you guys, peace out.
Peace.